Good morning. Before I tell you about the parsha, I'd like to tell you about this menorah, which I first introduced to you about 2 years ago. This menorah was taken by the Germans in World War II from community either in Austria or Hungary. After they had destroyed the Jewish community, they looted all of the valuable pieces of Judaica. And this, in fact, was put in a munitions box, sent to Switzerland, ready to be melted down for the silver. However, the Allies recovered it, and this and other pieces of Judaica they sent to Jewish communities around the world. This one was sent to Cape Town, and for the last 70 years, it's been on display under the custodianship of the Jewish Board of Deputies. 2 years ago, we received permission from them to light it for our Hanukkah function, and for the last few years, it's been lit by a Holocaust survivor, Mrs. Ella Blumenthal, the only time since the Holocaust that this menorah has been lit. And we think about the message of Hanukkah about spreading light and the eternality of Hashem's Torah. To have a Holocaust survivor lighting this menorah is something that I think is very, very special. Onto the parasha we have in Mikeitz, the theme of dreams with Joseph continues. After he's had his own dreams, he is also interpreting the butler and the baker's dreams, and this week, Pharaoh's dreams. And Rabbi Cook says something very interesting about dreams. He says that dreams sometimes are just nonsense. But why are prophetic dreams teaching us something? He says it is our souls communicating to us, telling us what it is that we need. There is a message that our souls give us in our dreams that is somehow going to help us or prepare us for the days or for the challenges ahead. And that's why he says we used to have, and we find in the Gemara, the institution of the dream interpreter, because that's somebody, it's not just a random kind of mystical idea, but it's somebody who has a deep insight into who you are and is able to say, well, I think this is what your soul is trying to tell you through your dream. Now, that's a very interesting thing about dreams, perhaps a little less practical today without widespread experts in dream interpretation. But what is very, very relevant that Rav Kook says is that similarly based upon this, your soul's influence, subconscious influence, is not limited to your dreams. In fact, he says, what you find is that the soul has a power to influence situations in your life, to create the choices that you need to make. He says you find that you are faced with choices that are appropriate to your moral and spiritual level, and those choices are engineered or orchestrated by your soul. Your soul has this power that is able to say, today, this is the challenge that you need, and this is how it's going to be set up. Obviously, this power comes from Hashem, but it's working from within your own soul. And so naturally you gravitate towards situations, and if you find yourself facing a particular choice, dealing with particular challenges, in a sense, it's important to know that in a sense you chose that. In a sense you chose that, your soul decided that this was what you needed. And so even though we may rail against it, even though we may find it very difficult, even though we may not want to accept it, this is what you have chosen because this is what you need. And it's the same idea with our dreams, that our dreams are our thoughts, not simply the kinds of dreams which are regurgitating or going through again events of the day and random flotsam and jetsam of your mind, but dreams that have a meaning, that have a significance, are your thoughts from perhaps the superconscious more than the subconscious, from this level of soul that we're not always able to access, yet doesn't cease communicating with us and through us, whether we're aware of it or not. So that's the idea of dreams tapping in to the soul power. That's the idea of the choices and the situations with which we are faced, which we have really, in a sense, created for ourselves because that's what we need, that's where we need to go. And finally, once again, the message of Hanukkah, of the triumph of light over darkness, even many, many years later, said, if you can imagine, being in 1943 in the Warsaw Ghetto, telling people that one day a Holocaust survivor would be lighting a Hanukkah menorah surrounded by friends and family and beautiful children. It's something that I think nobody would have been able to believe, and yet it's something that should give us faith and hope and strength in the darkest of times. Shabbat Shalom.